welcome to Inside the Scoop. Today we have the pleasure of having several panelists with us that will introduce themselves momentarily as they turn their video on. But I'm really excited because school is beginning next week. And even though this whole summer has felt like a blur, September is already going to be here in just a few days. And I'm really excited about what the possibilities hold in terms of the fall semester. Many of you are going to be taking your classes remotely. And so we really want to talk a little bit more about what that's like. Perhaps this is the first time you're taking a remote class or an online distance education class, or you are just a complete expert on this and have done it before. But I really wanted to bring on all of my panelists who can now turn on their video and ask them for input, feedback, and answer any questions that you may still have about what the semester is going to look like next week, what questions are still lingering for you, and we'll try and answer as many of those as possible. As Mr. Taylor said, we have at the bottom of your screen a little tab that says Q&A and also chat. So if you have some questions for the panelists, we will make sure that please put it in the Q&A and we'll make sure that we answer those either now or perhaps we'll get back to after this session. And if we have any websites or information that we want to share with you, we'll also try and put that in the chat feature so you can copy it later on. So I'm going to start first and ask Dr. Katie Lynch to introduce herself, and then we'll go around the squares of the individuals that we have with us today.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Katie Lynch, and I am the chair of the Sam Draper Honors Program here at RCC. I'm also an associate professor in the English department. And so I am here to speak to how it feels to teach online and how it might feel as a student to learn online. I'm happy to answer any questions about that remote learning and teaching experience. And so I'll be happy to do that when you have your questions. Thanks very much.
Thank you. And we have also one of our faculty members, Professor Bezier. Would you mind introducing yourself, please?
Hi, my name is Chris Bezier. I'm the program director for the Culinary and Hospitality Center here at the NIAC campus. And with about 95% of our classes not online, face-to-face, I'm here to maybe answer any questions you have or safety concerns or any concerns you have with that. So feel free to ask when you have that question.
Great. And then Brian Gomez, a very important role at the college. Brian, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and introduce yourself too.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Gomez. I have a long fancy title, Assistant Coordinator of Support Services for Online Learning and Academic Technology. All you need to know is that myself and my very small dedicated team is here to help you with any questions that you run into with the learning management system, Blackboard, or the remote softwares that you'll be using like Zoom, Blackboard Collaborate, or Google Meet. We are the backbone behind our virtual infrastructure that we are currently using at Rockland Community College.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you for everything you do. And last but not least, we have the perspective of one of our students today, one of our very important students, our Board of Trustees student representative, Emmanuel Bassas. Emmanuel, introduce yourself and then tell us a little bit about what you do as a Board of Trustees student representative.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emmanuel Bassas. I'm a student trustee at Rockland Community College. And together with the Board of Trustee and Administration School, this year we're working really hard to bring the students the best experience they can have, especially throughout this online experience. So we truly believe that in this tough times, we're gonna pull out our best, and then we're gonna do the best for you and for everyone at school.
So thank you so much. So as we're looking at next week and we start talking about remote, perhaps Brian, you can tell us a little bit about when we talk about remote education, what that may look like for a student. What are the potential formats that students may have their courses delivered in?
Okay, so as I mentioned before, there are three main services that are used at Rockland Community College. One is Blackboard Collaborate. So this is something that's actually built into our learning management system, Blackboard. So for those of you who've taken online classes before, that's where your professor puts all of your course materials. So there would be a link within Blackboard Learn to Blackboard Collaborate. So it's very similar to a service like Zoom, which we're currently using as a means of communicating with your professor and fellow students in real time. There is one other lesser used service called Google Meet, which is built into our Google Apps for Education. You may not realize this, but with the use of your RCC email account, you also have access to a whole suite of Google applications, one of which is Meet, which is a streamlined version of a virtual software that we're currently using.
Wonderful. And so, Dr. Lynch, let me ask you, some students need to know when they're going to meet with their faculty members. Perhaps we've heard the term synchronous and asynchronous used a lot. But can you tell us about what students should be looking out for in terms of the way their courses will be delivered in the fall, in terms of the format?
Yeah, so there are two different kinds of ways of teaching online, generally speaking. The first is asynchronous, in which the student completes work by various deadlines, but never interacts face-to-face with the instructor. And in such a course, you could log on at 2 in the morning and complete your work, as long as you were doing that by the deadline that the instructor specified. You can still email your instructor. Many instructors will still have office hours in which you can interact with them, either virtually or in person, with masks and social distancing, depending on the instructor. So, that's one kind of course, the asynchronous course. A synchronous course is like what we're doing right now, where you have the opportunity to be live with the instructor on specific days at specific times. You're expected to attend the class. You're expected to have your video on and to be participatory. And that instructor will, do a bunch of different kinds of learning activities. There may be a mini lecture, there may be a Kahoot quiz, there may be breakout rooms where students do small group work. And so that's a synchronous class, which meets at dedicated days and times.
Wonderful. So it could very well be that a student may have a combination of the courses the way you described them before. It could be that they're taking one class that's going to meet at a regularly scheduled time, and the faculty member will expect them to be there. So I have a question. Sometimes these videos, they look great, and other times they just don't. And so if from a student who, for example, says, I don't really want to turn my video on because there's a lot going on in the background, how do they let their faculty members know, and how was that received?
That's a great question, Dr. Brewer. I think it's really important that we all be very flexible, and that we all understand the expectations that your faculty have, but that you also communicate what you can give. So, for example, in the spring semester, when we went to a remote learning environment, I already had met my students in person for half of the semester. I knew them pretty well. One of my students reached out to me and said, Dr. Lynch, I can't turn my video on. I'm in a living situation where I just really cannot do it. And my response was, I'm just glad you're coming to class. Thank you for letting me know. You don't need to turn your video on. We can meet at a different time. And so every faculty member is going to treat that differently. But if your faculty member, if your professor says that they need your video to be on and you really cannot make that happen, I would suggest reaching out to them via email, politely and respectfully, explaining your situation and, sort of asking them to help you problem solve, because there are many situations. It could be a weak internet connection. It could be a difficult or challenging living situation where, having your video on is not going to work. And as long as you communicate with your professor about that, they should be flexible about it. That communication is the most important advice I can give. You've got to check your RCC email at least once a day. You've got to keep communicating with your professor about, what you are confused by. And if you do that, it should make the process more smooth.
That's a good point about checking your RCC every day, because there will be announcements, and that's really the way that faculty members will interact with you. RCC email is your official means of communication with the institution, and vice versa. A lot of times students say, well, can you write to my personal email address? And faculty and staff are required to communicate with you only to your RCC email address. So it's really important that you make sure that you check that out. So Professor Bezier, so we know that some students are, and I know the talk today is about remote, but this is all kind of also encapsulating the entire experience that we're going to be having this fall. And I know that some students, like your culinary arts students, will be coming physically on campus. Is it safe? How do we know that? And what measures are being taken to make sure that students are safe when they come on campus?
Yeah, that is a big concern to a lot of my students, and I don't know any one of them who have a concern of not coming in. They all realize the importance, like nursing or automotive or OT, these programs that really rely on hands-on learning. We have taken every precaution here at our campus, and as well as the RCC campus. Our class size is small now. So when a normal kitchen would hold 30, it only holds 10 now. So we have 3 sizes, 3 different types of those same classes going on, 3 sections. So we have a lot more sections for them. It's wonderful for the student because you usually share a station. Now these students have their own station, their own oven, their own work area. It's a great environment for them. So they're really lucky to be having, you know, the learning that they are having. We have paired together with public safety and maintenance. Between each class, they're all being sanitized. As we're all being told, every student needs to check in with the campus clear. It's going to clear them when they come in the door or not come in the door. Every precaution is being taken, so there is not really a safety issue here at our campus. Our goal first is safety, and we're on that. So I can ensure the safety of our students in our program, and then we'll cross that when we have to if something happens.
The other question I have too is, what if I did this just yesterday? I ran into a convenience store just to grab a quick Diet Coke. That's one of my favorite treats to kind of on a hot afternoon. And I ran in and totally forgot my mask. And the attendant looked at me, you know, with big glaring eyes and was like, mask. And I was like, ah. So I ran back outside to get mine. What happens if a student shows up and they forgot their mask?
So we have masks, always disposable masks that look very disposable, like these. The disposable masks. Each student and faculty will be given 2 masks, 2 washable, reusable masks. They're really nice. They have the RCC logo. It says they were workforce ready. So they're looking great, and it helps promote our college while we're doing it. But we also have a plethora of masks available. Our students have to wear masks. I know when you're in the kitchen for 5 hours at a time, some of my classes are 5 hours long, it's not very comfortable to wear a mask. But you know, we are proud, and our whole mission here, a lot of our mission is to making sure that our students are workforce ready. When they go out into the industry, they're going to be wearing a mask for 9, 10 hours at a time. So it gets them ready for that as well. So in the event that someone doesn't have a mask or anything like that, we're prepared with that. We have all the hand sanitizers around. We are more ready than I can imagine.
Thank you. You know, it was interesting when I first came back to the campus in the summer, maybe early or mid-June, as I walked in, the level of disinfectant just hit me because all of the staff have been working very hard to disinfect, constantly wiping things down, constantly cleaning up. But we are all, as a community, going to need to make sure that we're taking the precautions that are necessary. We're doing the hand washing, we're doing the hand sanitizing whenever we can't wash our hands, and that we're wearing masks. So here's a kind of maybe weird question. What if somebody is taking a remote class and they have to wear a mask? For example, let's say they're in a Wi-Fi space that's public, and you know they have to wear a mask. How do you think that's going to be received? Maybe Dr. Lynch, if since you're going to be teaching online this semester.
Yeah, I mean, personally, that would not bother me at all. I'd be very thankful that the person was wearing a mask and staying safe and being in a public space. I know that, you know, space and finding a good space in which to do a video conference can be a real challenge. So from my perspective, you know, as long as I did hear once a teacher talking with some frustration about a student who took the entire class to McDonald's with him when in the spring semester. So was going through the drive-through of McDonald's while being in class. I would really try to avoid something like that isn't necessary. But I think mostly faculty members really appreciate whenever a student is making the effort to be in class, to have their video on if at all possible, so that they can be engaged. So, you know, I think the advice is try to keep your video on if you can. Try to have a background that is not, you know, your bed or something like that, but mostly just try to do your best to be engaged and communicate with the instructor about, you know, what you need in that environment. Because if your bed is the only thing that you can have in the backdrop of your room, then so be it, right? That's fine. It's better that you're engaged and participating. That's the most important thing. And again, that communication, if anything is going wrong, if you're not able to meet the expectations that your instructor has set, just communicate with that person and explain to them your situation.
The fun part about Zoom is, and if you use Zoom, is that you can change your virtual background too. So like that way you can only see the outline of your face. Now this is where I wish I was, but unfortunately I'm not. But there's all kinds of opportunities to be able to, you know, change your background if that's what you want to do. So keep that in mind as well. See, now I'm back to my boring background. Okay, so This past spring, we did jump in from going virtual to, from going in live to virtual. And I know from the student perspective, that may have been quite a different shift. Emmanuel, what would you tell students to do this semester to really be able to have a really good experience? What are some suggestions you have from a student perspective, some recommendations?
So first, I have to agree with Dr. Lynch. First thing you have to do, you have to communicate. And most of your instructors, from my own experience, they will try to give you, to be really nice, to be easy with you. They understand the situation. They really are in this situation. So they really understand that we need to go easy in some stuff. Some other professors, of course, they are strict, but please don't get them wrong. They want to give you the best. They want to give you as much as they can to make you get, throughout this pandemic, throughout this mess, the best experience you can have. If you communicate, if you try to do your best to have, to adapt yourself to this, I'm pretty sure they'll do the same. I had a tough time. I did have a tough time. That's not, a secret to anyone, but we all had, and we all trying, and we all trying our best. And I'm pretty sure if you keep up with this, you're gonna have the best. So I'm also in the same boat. I'm gonna have 3 classes that are hybrid and 3 classes that are in 2 classes that are gonna be online. So it's also a new experience for me, but I'm right here. So I truly believe that we're gonna get through this together at the best possible.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So before we started this conversation today, there were some questions and just back and forth about how students are able to acquire their books, how students will know when it says on self-service banner that your course is remote. How will you know what that means? Does that mean Blackboard? Does that mean Zoom or Hangouts? Mr. Taylor, can you just give us a quick update on students and how they will purchase their books or how they will obtain their books for classes?
Right now, RCC has set up curbside pickups for the books. So you contact the bookstore, let them know what books you need via your Blackboard account, and they will schedule a time for you to come to the campus and pick up your books. You can also get ebooks. They're also going to be opening up the bookstore around the 16th of September with limited numbers of students being able to come into the bookstore and pick up their books. So they've put a lot of strategic plans in place for students to be able to obtain their reading materials and any other materials necessary for them to be successful in class.
Wonderful. And the other thing too is that I know you have rapid registration going on right now. So can you tell us a little bit about how long that's going to last, and can students at this point make changes to their schedules?
Yes, right now we're in the thralls of what we call rapid registration, which is giving students an opportunity to come to campus, meet with an academic advisor or a faculty advisor on a face-to-face basis once they schedule an appointment to come on campus. So when you get here, if you need to make changes to your schedule, or if you need to still even register or submit an application for admissions, you can definitely still do all of that here if you need some assistance. See financial aid, you can pay your bill at the student accounts office, you can drop off transcripts at the registrar's office. We'll probably be going through till September 8th with rapid registration. I don't encourage students to come in that late to register for classes. We would like to see you come Monday morning if need be to get everything done. We have a dedicated group of staff members here on campus that will answer all of your questions, get you to the correct locations, and get you in front of the right people so you can get the schedule that you want and that you can be successful with.
Thank you.
No problem.
So, another thing too is that I sent out a communication to all students this afternoon at your RCC email address, letting you know that faculty will be contacting all students who are taking remote classes by Monday to let them know what that means, how to access the class, and any potential links that you may need. So for example, if an instructor is teaching through Zoom, as we're meeting today, you'll get that link with more information as well. If you don't hear from your faculty member by Monday, the contact information for the deans from the academic schools is listed in that email, and you can reach out to them and they'll be able to assist you as well. Lastly, we did put a student affairs at SUNY Rockland email address there. So if you have any questions or can't reach someone, we're going to be ready to go on standby for you on Monday and all of next week to make sure that you have what you need. So we are now approaching close to the end of our conversation here, and wanted to see if, give the students, if they have a question, please feel free to throw those in the Q&A and we'll try and answer those for you. And then also too, any parting words or useful information that anyone of the panelists would like to share.
Sure, I want to share, my philosophy that I give to my students, and I use it as a kitchen reference. It's really important to be clear from the start. It's sort of like creating a recipe, and this is what I tell them. You're not going to just go open a cookbook and actually prepare it to the end thing. You need to read the recipe. You need to grab all your materials that you need to make that recipe. The same thing is what you're learning, whether it be remotely or however you're learning. It's very important to be clear. And if you're not sure of something, to ask your instructor, to ask the faculty and say, I just want to be clear from the start of what I'm getting into. It's going to be, a recipe for success, no pun intended, for my career. But it really is really important, to do that. We had a lot of time to reflect and plan for the fall semester, which included, remote learning and in-class learning, a blend of both, like Emmanuel. And I think that with all the hours of ongoing professional development programs that we've had over the summer, we are so prepared to give you, the students, the opportunity to learn the best way you can. But being clear from the start is really, really important.
Great,
I think
thank
I would
you.
also add that, just especially to Dr. Brewer's point earlier, and I did love your pun, Professor Bezier, that you can reach out to your faculty members proactively about the textbook and any other questions, and you can find their email address in self-service. So when you go into your schedule, or if you look up the classes that you're enrolled in, you can see those email addresses. And I've really been encouraging the honor students to reach out proactively if they haven't yet heard from their faculty member. There's nothing wrong with that, writing a polite email saying, can you please help me understand how the course will be running in the fall? Can you help me understand what textbook we're reading? That's perfectly legitimate.
Dr. Brewer, if I could say one more thing, and this happened to me in the last semester, just to make the students aware of our laptop loaner program. For those students who actually do not have the ability to have a laptop, we do have a laptop loaner program. It can be done through the Department of Student Development. Dr. Boykin, I think, is the one to contact. So if there is a situation that you do not have access to a laptop, we can actually help provide you with a loaner.
And that's a really good point, because some people may have a laptop, but they don't have the webcam with the video and also the microphone. So we also have some webcams that we're able to loan out to students as part of our Title V program. We also are acquiring hotspots, which are basically individual little Wi-Fi spots that go with you anywhere you can go, and they can serve up to 10 individuals. And we know too that right now, especially if you have a lot going on in your home, if there are children in the house who are going to be studying at home as opposed to in school, we want to make sure that we provide you with that information and those resources available to you. And if somebody else benefits from it too, that's quite all right. Let's see. I may have put the wrong email address. I used to work at Montgomery College, so I think I put the wrong email address in there, but let me put the right email address in there. Thank you for letting me know.
All right, so while you do that, Dr. Brewer, I'll speak to some of the technology that we're going to be doing. If you think about it, we all were thrust into learning remotely in the spring semester. We all learned that technology is not infallible. There are hiccups that you will experience. We all will experience them. That includes your professor. So keep in mind, while you might be experiencing technical issues, your professor will as well. So just know, everybody's learning this as we go along. We are learning, hey, maybe I shouldn't be sitting in this room of my house because my Wi-Fi doesn't go that far, so my video will buffer a little bit. So just know that your professors are going to be lenient with you in experiencing technical issues. What I can say is, if you can, if at all possible, try and limit the amount of people using your Wi-Fi at the same time. That will cut down on a lot of your video conferencing issues that you may experience.
That's a great tip. Great, great tip. Anything else? Any parting words? Emmanuel, we might leave you with the final word here.
Wow, that's challenging. So yeah, so I don't have much to say. I just, like, you know, everyone else, I struggled a lot with that, and I found myself put myself in a better room, you know, taking my notebooks, and sometimes have to review everything. It's not easy because I like to be among people. I like to feel people. I'm very active at a classroom, so I got really frustrated. But you know, for the sake of everyone, we trying to keep on going and still get going with our education as well. So we're not wasting any time. So what we're trying to do is do the best. And I know we're gonna make a lot of mistakes, but I also know that after this one, we're gonna be ready for anything that can come. So we had time to plan. Yeah, we had time to plan over the summer. So I pretty much sure, and I am confident that now over the fall, we're gonna have the best experience. But I have to agree with Dr. Lynch. Reach out your professor. You know, sometimes sometimes it looks like that you are bugging him, but they actually feel really good when somebody is very interested on the class. They like students like that. They like students that are using their time to improve and benefit themselves for this experience. So they will do as much as they can. So please use them like you use your computer.
I also want to say too that we have a lot of resources at the campus, a lot of resources to support you. I'm going to put in the chat access to a link to the Connection Center. The Connection Center is a center that provides assistance to connect you with resources in the community, but also sometimes, you know, during this whole pandemic, people are finding themselves in experiences they never would have imagined. I mean, some people, maybe funds are difficult in the household, and even getting groceries or having gas cards are important to help offset some of the expenses. We are here to help you. We do so in a very discreet way. I put a link to the Connection Center in the chat feature if you ever want to reach out and look and see what services are provided. But there's a plethora of services to help you. I cannot say that over and over again. I think everyone at the college, if we don't have that service, we'll figure out a way to get that service to help you. So we're here for you. I wish you such a wonderful, wonderful semester. Again, the email address, studentaffairs@sunyrockland.edu, is in the chat feature. Feel free to reach out to us. Let us know if we can assist you in any way. And with that, I thank you for being on the Inside Scoop today, and have a wonderful, wonderful semester. I'll ask the panelists to stay on as our attendees now depart, and that concludes our session. Thank you so much, everyone.